Have you ever seen something out of the corner of your eye? Some strange black mass that you can't explain? Well, tonight we're going to be talking about shadow people. Joel, have you ever run into shadow people before?
Twice, actually, with shadow people. So I'm excited to get into it.
So this is a topic that you're not a skeptic on. You firmly believe that shadow people are real?
Absolutely. First and foremost, because remember on our previous episode, I said I am a bit of a skeptic. I want to experience ghosts and hauntings, and some people might call me crazy for saying that. And I do, because I want to know what it's like. But one thing that I have experienced has been shadow people. I experienced it when I was young, back when I was, I think, still in elementary school or in middle school. And then the other time, it wasn't in my home. It was at the home of one of my father's friends. And I think I was still in elementary school during that time. But I've had two encounters with him. And I'm glad that tonight I'm going to be able to actually get into more detail, because I've never actually had this conversation with you.
All right. I've actually also had experiences with shadow people before. But before we get into our own personal experiences about it, let's talk a little bit about what they are.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So most commonly, a shadow person is always described to be this shadowy black mass, often seen from the corner of your eye, from the peripheral. The reason they're referred to as shadow people is because they look like a shadow, but yet they look solid. And whereas a shadow, it's obvious that they're on the surface and something like that. A shadow person will look like a shadow that is solid, and it'll have a humanoid shape. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a see-through kind of fog. Like, it's an actual black mass that is kind of like feathered around the edges most of the time, but you can't actually see through it. That's why I think they're referred to as shadow people.
Like a solid mass that's just moving. And they've actually been seen. There's thousands of eyewitness reports about them. A lot of people actually believe in them. And they're seen all over the world, anywhere. Pretty much anybody can have an encounter with one. And there are different variations, like descriptions of shadow people that people have given. That there's been some with, apparently they have red eyes, some that have like white glowing eyes.
Some that don't even have eyes. Some don't even have a defined human outline. They're just tall. They're like a blob as tall as a human. Sometimes they're just referred to or seen on footage as just how do you describe it? Like a shadow in a corner. But of course, you know
what they look like sometimes in some of the pictures. They resemble, like, you ever grab a sheet. You grab a sheet and you put it over yourself, and you're
yes.
like a ghost with the sheet on. They kind of look like that.
They kind of look like that. But I've seen some pretty crazy ones where they look pretty ominous. You can even make out a chin, a shoulder, an eye. Sometimes not. Like, I saw a recent YouTube video from, I think it was Nuke Top 5. There was a clip from a person who turned on the light inside of a closet in their home. And in the instant that the light flickers before it reaches its full brightness, you see right next to him, he doesn't see it because he's looking in the other direction, but you see right next to him a tall, probably 6 or 7 foot tall, shadowy figure, and you can clearly make out their shoulder, and it looked like they had a hat on. Obviously, you see an outline of a hat on the head. You don't see an actual hat because it's just a solid mass.
Ah, you're talking about the Hat Man.
Well, I think you saw the same one that I saw.
Well, yeah, but the Hat Man is actually a very, very, very popular shadow, specifically described shadow person. We don't know any kind of origin of it. All we know is that the Hat Man is a shadow person. Usually, he's wearing a top hat and an old style business suit.
Yeah,
and like, he's very defined. Like, he's very distinguishable. You know he's wearing, like, he doesn't look like a blobby mass. And apparently a lot of people have encountered the Hat Man, which is, I personally have not encountered the Hat Man. I've seen the other kind of shadow person, which is the hooded shadow person, which it looks like a hooded figure, kind of resembling like a hooded monk.
I think you told me that you encountered... Wait a minute. What about What about that one thing that you encountered once in the school dorms? You said that in one of the buildings on one of the floors, it was haunted, that people would always see some kind of a figure with a hat walking the halls.
That was not the Hat Man. It was not described as a shadow person.
So that's different.
People that were saying that was a ghost. I didn't personally see it.
Apparently, these dorms were very haunted.
These dormitories were very haunted, according to a lot of us. Very, very haunted. And again, like, the shadow people a lot of times get grouped together with ghosts. Like, a lot of people think they're like the supernatural entities. There's a lot of theories about shadow people, right?
We should definitely get into the different theories that people have of what they actually think that they are.
Definitely. I mean, the first theory is, are they a ghost? Well, I mean, if you go by the definition of what a ghost is, I don't think they really fit into that definition. They could. They
could. It doesn't really fit the mold. I want to get into this specific theory because I want to know what you think, and most importantly, I want to know what everyone listening thinks. So once you hear this theory, let me know in the comment section. One of the theories that I've came across is people who have had near-death experiences, or have had, well, not near-death, but have actually died for a substantial amount of time and then got resuscitated, either through a heart attack, a car accident, and either the people in the EMT, they resuscitated the person. People who have had that death experience have some sort of a connection, or are now able to experience things that people have not been able to experience before. And it's described as something that's always been there, but people don't experience it because I guess their mind, their wavelength, their energy, it's not at that same level as those people that have had death experiences. You know what I mean?
So what you're saying is that people that see shadow people, I guess, if they have a life or death experience, it's like they develop like a clairvoyance to see them? Exactly.
I mean, I know it's it's a skeptical thing to hear about, and this might take away some credibility from the theory, but about what's that movie that Keanu Reeves did? I think it was Constantine. Remember, he was clinically dead for a few minutes, and then after he was resuscitated, he was now able to see things that other people can't see. Now, I know that's a comic, but it's a very common thing in the world of paranormal research. A lot of people have had these occurrences. Not every single one, but some have had these death experiences and now claim to be able to see things, and shadow people are one of them.
It's a possibility. I mean, I personally have not had an experience like that, and I've had experiences with them. I think it also may have to do with people's open-mindedness to this, how open they are, receptive they are. There's so many variables, and then of course we'll get into the skeptic side of this in a little bit, in terms of what shadow people could be.
It's funny because I was looking at the skepticism part of our research.
Yes, actually, I felt it was important to actually look at the other side of this and not just lean into again, like I said, like I've said in one of our other episodes, that I am a believer in a lot of the supernatural and a lot of and all this stuff, but I also want to try and be objective and my goal is to try to explain things before I jump to the first conclusion, right? And then if sometimes there are just moments that it's just not explainable, and then that's where my belief comes into play.
No, I agree. You told me that you never had an experience with the shadow people?
Oh no, I have actually.
You have
quite a few actually.
Okay.
But I will say this: shadow people are. So for the most part,
are they negative or are they positive? Would you say?
A little bit of both, honestly. A little bit of both. Some people, sometimes you just kind of see something out of the corner of your eye, maybe, and a lot of times it's just very explainable. It could be just anything from an animal just quickly moving into the brush or something, and you just quickly saw it, right? But a lot of times they're just quick movements of something like a dark mass, and when you look, nothing's there, and you just explain it away. But there's other incidents when you encounter a shadow person where you could see them very quickly, but it's followed by a great sense of fear, a sense of apprehension that comes out of nowhere, and you don't really know why you're feeling this way. It's just very sudden sense of terror.
Well, I got a question for you, because you said something just a second ago that piqued my interest. You said animal, creature, I think it was. So I have a couple of questions. So what do you think would be the correct term? Shadow people or shadow figures? Here's the reason why. Shadow figures is a very broad term. Shadow people, you would assume that they are in the shape of people. They could be ghosts. However, ghost implies that these are spirits of people who have died. Shadow figures are not necessarily ghosts, because you said they could be creatures. Now, if they're demonic in nature, that means that they've never been human. So they can take the shape of different things, including people. So do you think that they're demonic in nature?
I don't think they it's very hard to give a defined definition, right? Because it's really based on the theory that you're going with. And like, I don't think they're ghosts. I really don't think shadow people are ghosts. I think it's something else that we just don't understand.
Or could they just be anomalies?
But anomalies of what? There is a theory, going back to your theories, there is a theory about some shadow people, as you said, being anomalies, as being residual energy that's just kind of cycling out. It's like a residual energy of someone that has kind of like passed away or recently or something. No, because a poltergeist is something that is active and pretty much aware of what it is. A poltergeist is aware that it's not like a regular living human being. And that's why they as poltergeists, defined by what it is, they move things, they move objects and stuff like that. And for the most part, poltergeists know what they're doing, right? They interact and they are aware. Residual shadow people, a lot of times the theory is that it could be someone that died very recently, and there's just this residual energy left in that location. And so a lot of times this shadow person, what you'll see is you just see a shadow person or a figure just kind of walking, say, down a hallway, and they go into a room and then they're gone. And that's just the residual energy. They don't interact with anybody. They don't stop. They don't stop to look around or anything like that. They're just moving as if they're living in their own world. And then once they reach their goal, that energy is gone. So that's one of the foremost theories about those kind of shadow figures, where they're just moving forward. But then you have like shadow people which a lot of people have described them to have like the red eyes, or to just have this malevolent energy around them, which they like to stare at you, right? They like to just lurk around and look at you.
Like those video footage of people who take it upon themselves to record in the house, and they see some random figure that kind of like peeks around the corner, and then by coincidence they just disappear when they run towards the corner to turn the corner and see that there's nothing there.
Yeah. It's a lot more aware entity in that sense. Like, most of the people that describe a shadow person and they have a negative description of it is usually that entity, that figure was staring at them, right? And that's usually what the red-eyed ones do. They just stare at you with this intently. They're just standing there or whatever. And then what creeps people out is the energy that they're feeling from it, right? And whether you're a skeptic or a believer or sensitive to it or not, energy is energy, and we have reactions to emotions. If you go into a room where there's a high level of tension because something just happened, you immediately know that something's wrong. That's where we get the phrase, you could cut the tension with a knife, like a hot knife through butter,
Well, that's usually what poltergeists feed off of, like negative emotion or a strong strong emotions is what they feed off.
Those negative or malevolent shadow people, they're feeding off your fear, and that's why they're staring at you.
Theory 2. You have told me that you've had sleep paralysis before. I've never had this. I've never had sleep paralysis, but you have. Did you encounter these shadow people or experience shadow people before or after the sleep paralysis? Like, I don't know if you could think back to the first time you've ever had.
Both times, actually.
Huh?
I've only had the sleep paralysis. I've only experienced that once in my life, and it is terrifying the first time you experience it. It really is. I mean, I think after a couple times, I guess you learn to cope with it, and you trying to figure out ways to keep yourself calm. But the first time, wow. But when I had that incident, there were no shadow people. I didn't see anything like that. But I have seen shadow people before that happened and after that happened. It's not often. I've had a few incidents where I see a full-on figure, and like I said, for the most part, anybody that does see them, you see them out of the peripheral of your eye, which is why it's so difficult to prove if this is a real phenomenon or not, because your peripheral vision is always inaccurate, right? But I have actually seen them head on, straight vision, not from my peripheral. So I've had experiences with them in that way.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because in the story that I want to tell in a little bit, I have also experienced them straight on, like not in the corner of my eye, not in my peripheral vision, straight on, looking dead at them. As a matter of fact, I've even looked straight at them and then walked towards them, and it kind of dissipated right in front of me.
You're crazy.
No, well, I mean, but I had to. But the thing is, I had to, because once I start telling you this, I start telling you the story, you will realize why I had to, and it's a stupid reason why I had to, but nevertheless, I had to walk towards them to take care of something. So. Yeah,
well,
we'll get into
what?
that.
Let's get into that now. Actually, why don't you tell me your first experience with a shadow person?
So
we still have a couple theories to talk about, but we'll get there.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode so far. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Check out part 2 of Shadow People by clicking the link on the screen.